Hello everyone and welcome to the Prado Museum in Madrid, Spain. We're continuing our Wednesday morning series of short conversations in English thanks to the help of the American Friends of the Prado Museum. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting the museum with as many projects as we can, including these 10-minute weekly videos in English. And today we'll be looking at this beautiful portrait of Catherine of Austria by Anthonis Mor. Anthonis Mor, or Antonio Moro, as he's known in Spain, was born in the Netherlands in the 1520s. He trained with Jan van Scorel, who was one of the Netherlandish artists that really absorbed the style of painting in Rome. Van Scorel was instrumental in bringing the ideas and the artistic principles from the Italian Renaissance to the Netherlands. So Mor was exposed to this, and he incorporated it into his painting as well. Before long, he was a successful portraitist, and Mor came into contact with the court and began painting some of the most important people of his time, like Mary of Hungary, Charles V's sister, the Duke of Alba, or Philip II. And so this portrait that we have in front of us is Catherine of Austria. Catherine was the daughter of Philip I, or Philip the Handsome, called Felipe el Hermoso in Spanish, and Joanna I of Castile, or Juana I de Castilla, also still called Juana la Loca. She was born just shortly after her father died, and he died unexpectedly at a young age. We did another video recently of a painting of Joanna that was holding a funeral for her husband. In that painting, we could see that Joanna was pregnant. She was pregnant with Catherine. So Catherine was part of a very important royal family. Her older brother was Charles V, and she herself married the King of Portugal, John III, and they had 9 children together, and all of them died, and some of them very young. None of them lived past age 18, but one did live long enough to produce an heir to the throne, Sebastian. The King of Portugal died when Sebastian was just 3 years old, so Catherine governed in his place as Queen Regent of Portugal for several years, so she was a very important, very powerful woman. Now, royal portraits are also often statements of fecundity, of eligibility to the throne, demonstrations of visual links to a dynasty, and so because of that, they're kind of like political statements where all of the details have to be really carefully planned. And if we think about images of politicians today or royal families today, I think that something similar happens. I think that politicians are very careful to be photographed with a tie or without a tie, right? And wearing clothes by local designers or having the perfect amount of gray hair. And so this is something that really hasn't changed. This happened in royal portraits then too, that these are very controlled images of leaders. So let's look at some of the things that are noteworthy about Catherine's portrait here, some of the clues that tell us a little bit more about her. And one of the first things that we notice is this headdress, this really unique headdress, which is Portuguese. And of course, she was the wife of the King of Portugal and Queen Regent of Portugal. And also this piece of jewelry that she has here was a gift from her husband, from King John. All of these luxurious details of her dress, of her jewelry, are so meticulously painted, and they really speak to the magnificence of her and of her court. And if we look closely at the sheen of the dress that we're looking at now, it's just beautiful. We can really appreciate Mor's technique of painting. And it also makes us think of the Flemish tradition of oil painting too, right? That lends so well to the precision of these features. We can also see that she's carrying a fan here, and she's wearing all of these rings. She has 4 rings on each hand. This hand has emeralds, and then on the other hand, we have rubies. And there's a fly on the handkerchief, but we'll come back to the fly in a minute. Now, royal portraits were often used as diplomatic gifts that expressed allegiance or loyalty, and we know that Catherine's family, the Habsburgs, were so incredibly conscious of their image and of the political power of their image and art. And we can think, for example, of her brother, Charles V, of his relationship with Titian. And the commission of this portrait was actually from another woman who was very important and very powerful as well. This is the Queen Mary of Hungary. She was Catherine's sister, which means that she was also Charles V's sister. And aside from being politically important, she was also an important patron of art. Some of the really important paintings that we have here in the museum are a result of the collecting and of the commissions of Mary of Hungary, like the Descent from the Cross by Roger van der Weyden is because of her collecting, as is the equestrian portrait of Charles V riding into the Battle of Marburg. That was a commission by Mary of Hungary. And so this was also a commission by Mary. She hired Mor to paint this portrait of Catherine in Lisbon, and he also painted her husband, King John. So Mary wanted the portraits to be sent to her, to Flanders, where she was. And the result is this sober, powerful portrait of Catherine. It's slightly more than half length, and she's standing next to this table covered with a velvety green cloth. Now, Mor was probably aware of other portraits painted by Titian of the family, like Titian's portrait of Philip II when he was still a prince, where the monarch stands next to a table, much like Catherine is doing here. And Mor really used the same format in a lot of his other paintings of the Habsburgs too, and we can see some of them here. This is another portrait by Mor of the Empress Maria of Austria, who was the wife. We can see the same table, the same format. This was the wife of Maximilian II, who's standing next to her. Again, we have the same table. And these portraits also, of course, include these clues that tell us a little bit more about the people that they portray, like the helmet and the sword here. Maximilian fought in the Battle of Marburg with Charles V, and so these elements remind us of his military experience. And if we go to the other side of the room, we can see that there's also a portrait over here of Mary Tudor. And we can see that Mary is, of course, holding the rose, the Tudor rose that refers to her family. Mary was the second wife of King Philip II of Spain. And now let's go back to our portrait of Catherine. And we're going to look again at the fly. Now, Mor added the fly to create this kind of trompe-l'œil effect. That means in French to deceive the eye. And in painting, it's a visual illusion that makes something look like it's really a 3D object. And it looks like the fly actually could be resting on the painting. You can't really tell if it's been painted on the handkerchief or if it's a fly that's sitting on the canvas. You really have to look twice to see if it's a real fly or not. Now, Catherine really liked this painting, and she liked it so much that she made it her official image. And we've already talked a little bit about the awareness of the power of images, and Catherine liked this, and she wanted this to be the representation of her, and decided that it would be the painting that she wanted to disseminate, to promote of herself. And so she commissioned several copies to be made, and she sent them to different places. And actually, Mary of Hungary, the one who commissioned the painting in the first place, ended up getting one of the copies. Catherine kept the original panel for herself, and Mary got a copy painted by Mor's workshop on canvas. Now, Mor didn't sign this painting, but the original panel is the only one that has the fly. So the copies painted by the workshop don't have the fly on the handkerchief, and this really kind of shows the authorship of the painting, and it distinguishes it from the copies. So in effect, it's kind of like a signature from the painter, even though he didn't actually sign his name. And with that, we'll close for today. So I hope that you've enjoyed having a closer look at this beautiful portrait of Catherine of Habsburg, or Catherine of Austria, by Anthonis Mor with me. And you can find out more about Mor on our website, and also more about the American Friends of the Prado Museum and our sister organization, the Fundación de Amigos. And we hope to see you again next Wednesday for more conversations in English.